Welcome back everyone, it's Mihai and thanks for joining me on a new episode of Full Stack Frontiers. For those of you new here, this is a podcast slash newsletter combined, so that would be like what? A newscast, I guess? I don't know. Anyway, we're covering a wide range of topics here. Everything from coding, open source software, self-hosting, to big news impacting the IT industry. Before we get started with this month's episode, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 2k subscribers, so make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Alright, let's dive into this episode as there's a lot to cover this time. Starting with this website I recently stumbled upon. Architecture Antipatterns, and it's a goldmine of information. It breaks down these common architectural pitfalls in a clear, concise way with real-world examples for each one. I've seen so many of these in action throughout my career, sometimes I even contributed to them myself. Take for example emotional attachment. At some point I used to always want to solve any API use case through GraphQL, and that wasn't healthy. Not everything is better represented by a graph. Also, the most frequent anti-patterns I see in practice are over-engineering and over-modularization. If you're doing this, you end up with complex system that's hard to maintain and even harder to understand. Architecture is about finding the right balance between simplicity and complexity. It's choosing not to add new stuff to the tech stack just because it's cool or because someone mentioned it in a presentation. I really recommend you to read these anti-patterns, and I also recommend you read the book Evolutionary Architectures by Near Ford and others. You can find the link in the video description. It will give you the tools and most importantly the mindset to design systems that can gracefully adapt to change. It emphasizes the importance of modularity, but not just for the sake of modularity. This book is a shift in paradigm because it moves beyond rigid upfront design and embraces the reality of software development, which is change is inevitable. By building the capacity to evolve, you create systems that are not only more resilient but also more aligned with the ever-changing needs of the users. This mindset shift can help you avoid the anti-patterns mentioned previously, like over-modularization and over-engineering. So if you're serious about software architecture, do yourself a favor, check out this book. Again, the link is in the video description. Next up, I recently came across this article about functional programming in JavaScript. It's well written, well organized, so give it a read to learn about important concepts such as higher order functions, partial application, function composition, and currying. And since we previously talked about software architecture, if you think about it, all the design patterns that you have in OOP, they are just for the most part a result of the limitations of the OOP as a paradigm. I know functional programming can seem hard at first, but trust me, it's worth the effort. Once you start applying and really understanding these concepts, you'll see why people are recommending functional programming more and more. It's much harder to mess up a functional declarative architecture than it is to mess up an OOP. Basically, if you adopt functional programming, you'll have more readable, maintainable, testable, and concise code. Functional programming is definitely not as verbose as OOP. I've also made a video about this topic in the past, so if you like to learn more, I think I explained everything you need to know pretty well and pretty concisely, so if you don't like reading, feel free to give that video a watch right after this one. Next, we're looking at this older article, but nevertheless pretty important. It's about the Notifier pattern. This is a really useful pattern for building applications that need to send notifications to users or to other systems, or even real-time chat applications. So this pattern is also used in RiverQueue, the job queue system written in Go and built on top of Postgres. In fact, in this article you'll find the exact implementation from River's codebase. The main idea is that you can define channels and send notification messages containing a payload on those channels. And you can also use the listen command to receive the notification on a given channel. Think of it like a messaging system built right into Postgres. You can combine this with PostgreSQL triggers and you have the building blocks for a real-time messaging system with just PostgreSQL. And that's amazing. Like I said, this is suitable for various use cases like notification, chat applications, and also triggering action based on database events. In fact, I personally use this pattern to build a real-time notification system and chat application by implementing WebSockets over PostgreSQL triggers and the notify command. And it was actually quite simple and effective. If you're already using Postgres and you want to implement real-time notifications or chat in your app, try this approach before you add yet another dependency to your tech stack. Next up, another Postgres topic, and that is using the new JSON table feature in Postgres 17. So like I said in the last episode, Postgres 17 is out, and one of the standout features is this one, JSON table. And this lets you query JSON and display the query data like it's a native relational SQL. This is an article by Paul from Crunchy Data, who have an awesome PostgreSQL Kubernetes operator, by the way. You can check out my video about that and why you should be running Postgres on Kubernetes with an operator. And they showcase here how you can take JSON feeds like from a URL, and work with this feed like any other Postgres data in your database, basically transforming this to a table. They showcase this feature by grabbing JSON data from an HTTP API and then using JSON path expressions to map them to the corresponding SQL columns. It's essentially an entire ETL pipeline built with nothing but Postgres. That's crazy. Now, working with JSON in PostgreSQL is really awesome, and continuing in the same manner, the next article showcases some advanced functionalities that are now available. You can read through this article to learn more about things such as JSON array aggregate and JSON object aggregate, querying JSON, as well as JSON table, which this article also says is a big thing, so if multiple sources say, then it must be true. Next, let's look at some awesome projects. AI agent is the latest buzzword regarding AI applications, so in this section we're going to explore 3 projects to help build such agents. So first up is Swarm by OpenAI. This is an experimental educational framework that's all about making it easier to work with multiple AI agents. Think of it as a way to orchestrate a team of AI agents, each with its own role and capabilities, but use them together to achieve a common goal. It's a project that has the potential to unlock some really interesting applications in the future, so definitely worth a star on GitHub. Next, we're going to look at Kaiban.js, again, a JavaScript framework specifically designed for building multi-agent systems. Basically, it provides a robust and flexible way to create agents that can interact with each other or work within a team. You can see here the syntax is actually called a team that can work together to accomplish a task. And finally, we have Super AGI. This is also an open source project aiming to build a more general purpose and customizable AI agent framework. It's still in the early stages, but this one also has a lot of potential. Their idea is to create a platform where you can easily build and deploy AI agents that can perform a wide range of tasks, and they open sourced part of their platform. The idea behind AI agents is to combine LLMs with the ability to reason and act. They are able to accomplish a goal, make decisions along the way based on information they have, and finally they can take action, meaning they can interact with their environment. While LLMs excel at tasks like generating text, translating, answering questions, AI agents go beyond those capabilities. Imagine AI agents taking care of your flight booking, scheduling meetings, or conducting market research. These tasks often require the agent to interact with the outside world, gather information, and make decisions based on that information. For example, an AI agent that's tasked with booking a flight would need to access flight information, compare prices, make a booking based on your preferences, and so on. This level of interaction and decision making is not possible with simple LLMs. So frameworks such as this enable us to build more sophisticated and more powerful AI applications. So another project I'm very interested in is Xerox. It's a project that I want to use as soon as possible because it's a way to extract tables out of images and documents such as PDFs and transform those to markdown tables. It recommends using GPT-4o Mini, which is extremely cheap. Every other tool I've tried to use in the past to extract tables from images failed, and I really have high hopes for this one. And last but not least, Sidekick, which can be a great addition to your homelab or self-hosting setup. If you know about Fly.io, they claim that this is the self-hosted alternative, which will make it easy to self-host containerized applications on your own virtual private servers. It also has a simple way, a one-command way to set up your bare metal servers or virtual machines into a self-hosting ready setup. On their roadmap, they have this feature of deploying more complicated projects defined in Docker Compose files. Once that's available, I'll definitely be testing out Sidekick and sharing my experience on the channel. Alright, now that we've explored some cool projects, let's shift gears and dive into the recent developments in the tech industries. There have been some interesting stories making headlines, so let's see what's been happening. So first off is this article that talks about 37 Signals, how they managed to save 7 million over 5 years by migrating their services from the cloud to their own infrastructure. This is definitely a bold move considering the current trend of businesses moving everything into the cloud, but their story really highlights the potential cost savings, especially for larger companies. Now, I've had this hunch for a while that cloud can be very expensive, more expensive than obviously owning your own hardware. But that's why I'm a big advocate of self-hosting, making videos about how to create your Kubernetes cluster. And I also made a video critiquing the pricing models of various cloud services. And this article isn't the only example of scenarios such as this. In my older video on this topic, you can see that even for a small project, the cloud route can get very expensive depending on what types of services you use and how they are being charged. For example, if you get charged per request and you get DDoSed, you might get a hefty invoice. I think it's important to be aware of the costs and benefits of both cloud and self-hosting before you're making a decision. In the end, it's all about finding the right balance between cost and performance and scalability. For some businesses, cloud might be the best option, but for others, self-hosting could be a more cost-effective way to go. Let's move on to another interesting piece about the state of the software engineering job market in 2024. So this article provides some insightful data trends, so let's dive in. So I'll summarize some of the points I got from this article, and that's that layoffs are slowing down, however fewer companies are hiring. They also mentioned that the bar is now higher. While opportunities do exist, the bar has been raised for securing a new role. More than ever, experience is key. So for those of you with 3+ years of experience, the market is still hot. The market is only weak for beginners. And of course, there's a notable increase in demand for AI talent, particularly in building LLM application, and this I can definitely confirm. This table also shows that most of the jobs are for senior developers. And that's a wrap up on another episode of Full Stack Frontiers. I hope you've enjoyed our overview of software architecture antipatterns, the notifier pattern, functional programming, JSON table, AI agents, and so on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I know it's been a slower few months for the channel, mainly due to big changes in both my personal and professional life, but I've got a lot of exciting content ideas that you don't want to miss out on. Until next time.